I wanted to spend some time working this morning on some water moving projects in the high tunnel in our neighbor's yard. Walking past a whole bunch of beautiful annuals out here. This should be its own wander at some point, all the different crops that are working well on the outside. But on the inside, we're trying to figure out more effective ways to keep this space hydrated and to distribute water in a passive way using gravity and leveraging hand-dug swales and channels. And so in this video, I'd like to talk about how I'm slowly but surely evolving this system of being able to have channels throughout the high tunnel space that we can add water from a pond or from a rainwater collection system at some key points, and it'll be able to distribute and hydrate the rest of the space. So stick around. I'd like to do a video sooner rather than later that is an update about the plants that are in this space. So there's a lot happening in here in mid-August. Lots of different varieties of figs that are growing. We've got ginger that is doing okay, but not amazingly well. It is still growing. Lots of tomatoes coming in and habanero peppers, rosemary that we can harvest. That'll be its own video soon enough. I want to talk about the water system in this video, but just know that I will circle back around to the plants too, but they need water in order to work. Watering this space can be very, very slow. We use a hose with a wand so we can reach deeper in. Sometimes we use a rose water earlier in the season to water seedlings, but for the most part it's just a hose that's open. And this, when we open up a valve, is having rainwater from upslope pouring through it, but it's not incredibly fast. And so here's that rainwater moving through. It's beautiful and miraculous that it's even there. No complaints about that part. But you can imagine in a 50-foot long by 14-foot wide high tunnel, if the goal was to hydrate every single plant that is actively growing, you're in for an hour, maybe 2 hours to point water at every single spot. How do we soak the soil throughout the lengths of these beds so that we can put the water somewhere and let it run and hydrate everything passively? So here's a walkway where I just put the water. You can see where I can come in here and step up and into this walkway. And this brings me down. It splits the southern half of this high tunnel yet again. So there's the very southernmost, and this is the bed that faces the walkway. That's easier to water. And this walkway can double as a channel for flood irrigation. So there's water now coming in from the rainwater collection, and slowly and steadily it's moving down through this hand-dug swale, wicking water. You can see where I did it the other day, how much darker it is there. And it'll just move down the entire length of this bed, and any of the plants that have roots that are deepened down in can access that water as it wicks in. I was using metal tools at first to do this. I had a little hori out here and a little Japanese hand rake, but then I realized anytime I come out here and I start flood irrigating, I can just grab a stick or a bone or a piece of stone that's sharp, basically some real pre-metal tools, and just keep shaving these walls, bringing this material down, and then with my hand I'm taking this rich walkway material that's absolutely soaked, and I can use it around the base of a tomato. Or I can take some and put it over the stem of a perennial kale, or hilled up against some ginger to help them root. So the process of evolving these channels in the space has gone slowly for sure. This is about the 8th or 9th session of being out here for about a half hour or an hour at a time, and just using whatever random bone or stone is around to find impediments, shave them into the walkway, let the water equalize and continue to spread in the direction I'd like, and then harvest the loose material and put it around crops to feed them. And each time I do this, it feels like the whole garden space is evolving more and more into this undulating layout that has an aesthetic value that I enjoy, but also is really functional. If I put the hose in here now, it equalizes through all of these ginger. It's not super easy for me to bring this hose over from the central walkway and reach all the way over and get every last ginger out there. But if I drop it in this channel, I can walk away and transplant and weed and mulch in other areas and let this whole area passively get watered on its own. You can see that dark channel in the center of the bed. Same exact technique as before. I drop the water in and then start chasing out and widening the areas where I want the water to go, and take those wads of now moistened material, organic matter, mulch, and hill them around plants we like, feed them. I can see there's more water being held up here, so I want it to go further this way. I'll grab some more of this little channel and put it off to the side. Oh, there's a ginger that could use some more. And now it's starting to move in the right direction, but I'll take it just a little further. Feed a ginger, chase it. Now we're talking, the water's moving a bit more down to the end of the bed where the remaining ginger live. And as it soaks in, it is hydrating so deeply around the ginger, and the material I brought up that was hydrated in the channel and is mulchy will preserve a fair bit of that water and then slowly release its own water as it leaches out what it had. So now about 6 feet or 8 feet of this bed is watered. Both sides of the bed, since it's split in half, are watered while I do something else. And the last few times I've been in here turning the water on, I feel like the ginger has grown extremely vigorously as a result of that. They seem to really like a lot of moisture in the soil. Good, average sun, good warmth, but not crazy warmth. And so I think soaking the jungle floor in here is really helping the ginger to pop. Back to the main pathway with the watering hose. You can see over here that water that was just rushing into this ginger bed is equalizing through the swale by just using my hands or a little tool to dig it out to keep it going until it all feels like it's equal. And this will soak in over the course of a few minutes. In fact, you can kind of actively watch it. It's not rushing into the soil, it's being wicked, going down, but also laterally. It's recharging in a very deep and thorough way. Meanwhile, the walkway can start getting some more. I like having my toes bare because then I can feel what I'm up to. Here's a nice pile of soil. This is a blockage from the water equalizing and going the way I want. So I'll take this, put it around this ginger to water and mulch and feed and add fertility. Now the water's moving, but I could also use my feet to scuff and move that water. Maybe we don't need these miscanthus stalks down in there. We can put those next to the ginger. Ooh, that's nice. We'll keep kicking the muck down until we get really thoroughly soaked, rich pile like that, and use that to feed this ginger and to stool layer this black currant seedling that showed up in here as well, and to build future soil. So it's not finished soil, it's not finished compost, but it's up and on the bed, feeding the plant and allowing the water to keep moving. So that hose has not moved, but the water has, and it's going to go right down this entire length. It's not going to rush down. It's a swale that pitches just the tiniest bit in this direction so that the water can transfer. That southern walkway is mirrored with this northern walkway hidden between rosemary, perennial kale, anise, hyssop, and the like. You can see the shadow. That is the same thing. Water in there comes all the way down through here, equalizes and ends right at this big berm and soaks into all of these plants. And so one hose outlet at that far end waters all of this passively. And as time allows, we take each of the 4 beds that are the primary permanent beds in here, and we split them as well with a little hand tickled channel to redirect and split and hold the water next to all the crops within their areas. Hose goes here. And again, I can walk away for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and it will water everything in here in the deepest way I could ever want. Meanwhile, that walkway you can see is finishing distributing the water down the line, and within a few minutes the surface water will be gone. It'll just be dark soil that has soaked in 30 or 40 gallons, maybe a little bit more, down through this whole line. Such a simple way to approach this. I mean, it requires that the greenhouse or the season extension space is relatively level to begin with, but for the most part when they're built, they are that. And so just having these systems, it's like little beautiful waterfalls and creeks running through the middle of these beds right past the tomatoes. So I'm not spraying, I'm not using black irrigation pipe, drip tape, all that kind of stuff. I can always renovate these things. There's a little ginger here that is basically holding back the flow, but it gets around. And we're not drowning these plants. It's only going to be very, very wet for a few minutes. It's like an extremely deep, slow soaking rain, and then it'll dry up on the surface again. So it does not feel like a pathway to worry about disease transfer onto different crops. In fact, the ginger and the tomatoes seem like they're getting along pretty nicely in here, and the tomatoes are starting to really respond with a happy crop. It rained a whole bunch this early morning, and so all the water coming down here lands in, it's pretty vegetated now, but there is a trench here that when there is enough water, it comes down along the south side and around the western corner and into the high tunnel. You can see the water from the rain was allowed in through this cutout, this channel, and all that darkness is from the rain making its way into the high tunnel and spreading all the way down to the far end. So the main walkway in the center, we don't water. The weather waters it when it rains enough to hydrate or to water on the south side of the high tunnel and saturate the soil in the ditch. The remaining excess goes all through here passively without any of our work. So next step is we've got this splitter here, is to add onto one of those valves some salvaged hose that has a 4-way or 5-way split, 6-way split. One that goes right here for the pathway of this south side, one for this bed to equalize through the middle of the crops, one for that far bed in the interior, one for this one and one for that one, and open the valve and let the entire high tunnel just be watered for an hour or two, and we can harvest that muck and move it, and the plants can have the experience of a bright rainwater stream moving past them for a little bit and then back to sweltering jungle heat in the high tunnel. Anyway, that's the idea. Let me know what you think. We'll do a more thorough update on the actual plants soon enough, but my mind is on the water for now. Take care.